There's coffee in that nebula.
How you doing, fellas?
Oh, shit. Hey.
That's not decaf, is it?
Viennese cinnamon.
Those sons of bitches.
That's Wednesday.
Greetings.
That's Don Ecker's
Salutations.
ass. Can you hear Don Ecker's ass? It's backing up.
No.
Keep it up, Kissel. You got something coming. Hey, we got a giant truck. Oh my God. Yeah, in case anybody can hear that beep, beep, beep crap. We are literally trapped inside our house. We are being repaved all over the area here. They got all the roads shut down. They got these giant ass trucks running up and down. They're putting macadam in there. I don't know, boy.
It sounds like a conspiracy to keep people trapped in their homes.
I hope the Chinese don't attack.
Just hope it doesn't last 2.5 years again.
Right, exactly. Hey, it looks like we got some folks in the chat right now. We got, of course, Anima Confusa, Love of My Life is out there. D. Bud Martin. The wonderful Penny is watching the show right now. Dragon Ruse. And, Read by Nature is here. People are dropping in. I know that our audience on KGRA is tuning in right now. Welcome, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. But with guys like me, every day is Hump Day. So you just never know what's going to happen. I got to tell you, beagles are awful humpy.
Yes, they are. And Miss Bailey is having a conniption fit right now with this M1A1 size truck in front of our house. Bailey, that's enough.
I also want to welcome to the show our good friend Mark Sinner is here. Here's Mark. Hi, Mark.
Hey.
And Mark has got his bug out bag behind him. Do you see that? Got a bug out bag. What's in there? Now, if I know you, hold on. Let me guess. Movies.
That is a portable amp when I go out busking on the street for dimes and nickels. Yes, it is.
I do that too, but I do other things for money.
Yeah, they generally pay him to stop singing.
Yeah, that's the direction I was going, John. Singing. That self-deprecating joke was all about singing. Thanks, John. But good morning, everybody. We are going to be doing Dangerous Military Nerds later. It was going to be a continuation of UFO subject today, but if you've already seen, we're going to be doing D-Day today. Our UFO special Dangerous Military Nerds will be next Wednesday, where we will have both Tom Reed and Mike Barra from the History Channel's UFO shows. And such.
Who's that, Gary?
I'm not going to go into it that I have a beef with him.
Who's that we're having on?
Mike Barra, who apparently on one program said that he was a lunar landing denier, and I'm like, what the fuck? How can you study and do research on UFOs and science and be a lunar denier? It's just what? I was blown away by that, and I'm hoping that that I can bury the hatchet with him because, like, he knows who the fuck I am, but I know who he is, and it annoys me because I always liked him up to that point. But that'll be next Wednesday. Today, we're going to be talking about, holy shit, what happened over in the last 36 hours. And in fact, I couldn't believe it that Tucker Carlson's first freaking episode that he airs on Twitter talks about the whistleblower. And that was pretty mind-blowing. What did you think of that, Mark?
Yeah, I just watched it this morning, and he's always been one of the few. Don and I have talked about this a number of times, that when he was on Fox as the biggest guy on cable news, it was amazing that he was the only guy who would talk about the cases. He was it at all. Now, part of my issue with him, like, he had a guy on quite some time ago, and they showed some interesting lights, yada, yada, yada. Mick West comes out and says he thinks he figured it out, and it looks as though they were probably from a circus or something like that. The problem with Fox and him is they would never come back out and say, oh, by the way, that one's been figured out. He would never do that. So that's my one quibble. But at least he was the only guy, 3 million people a night, and he would come out and actually give it a platform. Who else was doing that? Nobody but him.
No. Yeah, only people that showed it was not CNN, but CNN's News Nation.
Right.
Talked about it.
Right.
And which surprised the hell out of me too. And they did a full-blown interview with the guy. But Tucker, I'm going to go ahead and show Tucker's comments from last night. I captured it on video. So here we go, guys. I'm going to go and play it.
Not only are the media not interested in any of this, they are actively hostile to anybody who is. In journalism, curiosity is the gravest crime. Yesterday, for example, a former Air Force officer who worked for years in military intelligence came forward as a whistleblower to reveal that the U.S. government has physical evidence of crashed non-human-made aircraft, as well as the bodies of the pilots who flew those aircraft. The Pentagon has spent decades studying these otherworldly remains in order to build more technologically advanced weapons systems. Okay, that's what the former intel officer revealed, and it was clear he was telling the truth. In other words, UFOs are actually real, and apparently so is extraterrestrial life. Now we know. In a normal country, this news would qualify as a bombshell, the story of the millennium. But in our country, it doesn't. The whistleblower's account ran on a technology website called The Debrief, which you've probably never heard of. The Washington Post had that story, but decided not to run it. The New York Times, meanwhile, just pretended it never happened. On the front page of the New York Times website this morning, there were 5 stories about Ukraine, as well as 4 stories apiece about Donald Trump, trans people, and climate change, the usual lineup. There was nothing at all about how an alien species is flying hypersonic aircraft over our cities. Not one word. So if you're wondering why our country seems so dysfunctional, this is a big part of the reason. Nobody knows what's happening.
There you go.
All right, I got to jump in here.
Go for it.
I got to jump in here. This is a long and ongoing problem with the UFO topic going back to at least 1946. You notice I said 46. I didn't say 47 when Roswell allegedly happened. In 1946, immediately following World War II, there was a series of events that happened in Northern Europe that came to be known collectively as the ghost rockets. Have you ever heard of those?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody at the time knew what the hell this was. They still don't today, but that was really the launch of unidentified aerial phenomena flying in our skies. Hang on a minute.
You don't let the dog.
So,
those sons of bitches.
God. Get in there. God. So, anyway, 1947 happened, and for a year or two, all right, there was universal astonishment, amazement, and the United States Army Air Corps, then the United States Air Force, all right, basically was much more open about talking about this until a document was generated called the Estimate of the Situation, which later on the military denied ever even existed. It did, and we have copies of it, but they had originally ordered all those copies to be destroyed. And what did that document say? It said that the then UFO, that's what they called it then, UFO situation was real, was not visionary or illusionary, that there were apparently technological craft flying around in our skies that we couldn't begin to touch. And one possibility, all right, and I'm paraphrasing, that this might represent interplanetary visitation. Now, what the hell does that mean? At the time, the Air Force was running a program called Project Sign. Project Sign then became Project Grudge. And Grudge was really the initiation of attempting to suppress this from top to bottom. Now, later on, and this, I mean, we're talking in excess of 70 years now. Later on, something changed the equation. Now, a number of years ago, I collaborated on a number of shows with an investigative journalist by the name of Gerry Beckham. Now, Beckham had his nose up to his ears buried in intelligence sources. And we talked about this. He and I talked about this on my show and in private many, many times. The implication is the powers that be, and I'm talking about the people today that basically know everything there is to know about this situation. And we're talking about just literally a handful of people, because this thing, whatever this thing is wrapped up within an SAP. In other words, an SAP special access program, which in essence, under federal statute, means that if you have even knowledge of the name of this program, forget any data, just the name, and you release it, you're subject to federal censure. And that can mean anything from huge fines up to and including incarceration in a federal prison. And this is something else that nobody will say. I'm going to say it. If there's an implication that you may have an adverse effect by releasing this documentation or information that would present a possible national security fuck up, they can even whack your ass. They can assassinate you. They can kill you. Now, think about that in this nation of ours, the quote unquote American Republic, which is no longer quite the American Republic I was born into. Something is going on. And Beckham, through his intelligence sources, came forward with the conclusion that there is something that is so profound about this phenomenon that revealing it would totally upset civilization, not society here, but I'm talking about civilization worldwide, to the extent that we would no longer recognize the world we live in. And the allegation was that this has senior military people within the Pentagon literally quaking in their boots. Now, what is that secret? God only knows. I could make some informed speculation, but it would only be speculation. But I have been working on a paper about that very thing, disclosure. And ladies and gentlemen, I've said it here before, and I'm going to say it one more time. Forget disclosure. You may get pieces and parts, okay, like going to KFC to get some extra crispy fried chicken. You may get pieces and parts. You're never going to get the whole bird. And that's the name of that tune. Okay, Gary.
Oh, no.
You said it started in 46, but didn't it actually start during World War II with the Foo Fighters?
Foo Fighters, yeah.
Well, I could have said late October, November 44, but at the time, it was determined that that was advanced Nazi avionics. Whether it was or not, I don't know. But 46 was when the ghost rocket thing happened. And initially, it was suspected that it was recovered Nazi technology by the Soviet Union that were testing it. But impact areas where these things came down were examined closely, and nothing, no debris was ever found. No pieces, no parts. They had no idea. So that was truly mysterious.
Yeah. Well, before I show this, because I wanted to get your pulse on what's happening right now, because I do believe this guy's life is in danger doing what he did. And he freely and openly admits to the fact that by doing what he did, he has put his life at risk and his family's. What do you think, Don?
Yeah. Hey, look, I got to tell you, dude, when I busted the story, 2 stories in 92, for a while, I had some serious concerns myself. And those 2 stories I busted wide open were STS-48 and the encounter of UFOs in near-Earth orbit, and I'm convinced, a weapons firing at them, to the extent that the DOD and NASA encrypted the channel immediately following my appearance on Larry King Live. So we no longer, since that date, get a live feed from outer space. Okay. I'm the reason, okay, when I went on King to break that story. And the other story I broke involved Phobos 1 and 2, Russian probes that incidentally NASA had a very, very integral part of those missions. It was not known at the time, but the encounter of an enormous object in space in, excuse me, near Mars orbit by their probe, Phobos 2, that subsequently was then rammed by this enormous object, destroying it. Okay? Now, it sounds like a lot of horse shit if you're not familiar with it. I got that information directly from Glav Cosmos, okay? And one of their elite former Red Air Force Colonel, Dr. Marina Popovich. Now, the Russians have been as wrapped up in this enigma as we have been. And they were, if you can believe it, even more secretive about it than we were until the Iron Curtain fell. The communist government collapsed. And then an enormous amount of information came out of the former Soviet Union. But look, this thing is real. This phenomena is real. It has proven to be lethal in the past. Okay. UFOs are dangerous. All right. Not only because of a weapons potential, but environmentally, these things throw off radiation. And people have been hurt, they have been maimed, and they have died as a result of close encounters with this. This is something that, you know, the believers out there, they have a hard time with that. I could go into a buttload of stories that happened to us over the years at UFO Magazine with some real characters that are even today still prominent in the field. But this is something that is real. The military, the intelligence people know it. And quite frankly, it's got the shit scared out of them because, hey, technologically, we cannot touch whatever it is that's flying those things. Now, conversely, there's one more thing you've got to be aware of, you've got to be cognizant of. Over the years, there have been many downings of this phenomenon. Now, you're going to say to me, well, wait a minute, Ecker. If that's true, if they're so technologically advanced, why do they keep crashing? Well, I'm going to tell you what I think. I can't go into court. I can't testify to it, but I put on my cop hat with this thing a long time ago. These are the conclusions I came up with.
It's drinking and driving, isn't it?
Yeah.
Indeed.
You can either accept it or not. But here's the bottom line with me. If we're being visited by even one group from off-world or interdimensionally, doesn't matter, okay? They're alien as far as we're concerned. Then we are being visited by multiple groups. And not all of these groups get along. And years ago, out of Russia, okay, through some very highly placed investigators over there, formerly scientific talent within the communist scientific establishment, came out with stories of UFOs in conflict with each other, literal aerial battles in the sky. And if that was happening in Siberia, which incidentally was the geographical location of these purported aerial battles, it's also happening in near space. And if there is conflict up there in near Earth space, that would be something that, believe me, the powers that be would not want to be well known.
Definitely not, because not only do we have no control over these things, we have no control of them fighting each other. And what kind of threat does that cause? I'm going to go ahead real quick and just show the opening of this, because a lot of people don't know that the channel that put this out first is owned by CNN. And that really shocked me. Because we saw, Tucker Carlson talked about it yesterday. But the previous day, News Nation put it out, which is owned by CNN. And this is how they opened the show.
Bombshell claims from a military whistleblower. UFO wreckage recovered by the U.S. kept classified by a secret government program for decades.
That's a hell of an opener. Tell me that's not a hell of an opener, guys.
Well, let's not forget that, and we could get into the weeds about this, of course, but the two people who were behind the launch of the story, they had previously had some of their stories published first by the New York Times. Okay? The New York Times wouldn't touch this story. Don't know why, but their previous newspaper of choice, to coin a phrase, wouldn't touch this, and supposedly the Post wouldn't.
Washington Post, that's right.
Not 100% sure about that, but we do know that these two reporters had similar, let's say, pieces covered by the New York Times. Why?
Are you talking about Leslie Kean and Blumenthal?
Yes. So why?
Name them, Mark. Name them.
No, it makes you wonder if that paper would put out their other stuff. Why wouldn't they put this out? I have no answer for that. It's just interesting, right? Why wouldn't they touch this? They said that they were being pressured and they couldn't wait for the Times or the Post to confirm some of the information. So then one has to wonder, were they being pressured by another reporter or team of reporters who are going to jump on this and get to it before them?
That's usually the pressure. That is usually the pressure. 99%.
Right, but nobody knows. And let's look in the past. They certainly weren't pressured in the past for some of their other articles that they had time. Granted, this is a little bit different. I get it. One question that I would ask the group here is, what is this whistleblower exposing that you don't already know to some extent?
Because he's not giving any evidence, by the way. He's made it a point that he's not going to show photos or any documents.
I don't think he has any, but what is he whistleblowing that is so groundbreaking that, like Don, who's been around forever and ever, what's he
South Korea?
What's he actually whistleblowing that we haven't had information about already?
Yeah, there's nothing new. He's just basically verbally confirming everything that's been talked about for the last 70 years.
Right.
That's it.
Right. And I understand his...
And a lot of it, he says, is secondhand information that was told to him by people who are in the intelligence and military. Yeah.
All of it is secondhand. Let's go back to the Tucker thing. One of the issues I have with him, much like some of the pieces that he put on Fox, and they would never follow up on it, is that when he says this guy is obviously telling the truth. Really? So, Tucker, do you have any more information? No, he doesn't. But that's one of my issues with him, is that he'll go public and say, well, he's obviously telling the truth. And that's it. That's a huge statement to make.
As I recall, he had already done, I'm forgetting his name right now. Hold on, I'll find it real quick.
Your sound is messed up once again, Gerry.
I know. It's David Charles Grusch, who came up through the Air Force. He's a decorated veteran. He's also given sworn testimony before Congress. But as I recall, is there not, like, he took a lie detector test too over one thing, as I recall. Wasn't that a part of the news story? That's why he's such he's a senior intelligence officer that's worked not only for, he's loosely worked for the CIA and for the Air Force. That's the big thing, because the CIA and the Air Force are the two who have colluded since 1947. They have colluded together. And we know they've colluded. So for him to step forward, I actually do take that there's a lot of veracity, because he is who he says he is. And the Department of Defense has confirmed Yes, that's what he did. That's who he is. And he has absolutely said from the moment he spoke that this is not firsthand information. This is information that was given to him by other people within the community and the military. Now, is it misinformation? Sure, there's a possibility of that, Mark. But I don't think for a second it's bullshit on his part.
Well, we know for an absolute ironclad fact, okay, that the U.S. Air Force forever have been bullshitting the public with information about UFOs. We are aware of, in one instance, where they literally, AFOSI, the Air Force intelligence people, drove a civilian scientist crazy. Okay, I'm just going to use the street parlance. They drove the man mad into a mental hospital. Why? Well, he stumbled on something. He was living down near an Air Force weapons testing range. The man's name was Paul Benowitz. He already had an interest in the UFO topic. He became convinced that the ETs were flying over the Manzano test range, okay, in making alien incursions. He notified the Air Force about his observations. He was warned off. He got frustrated. He went to his senator and made allegations about this. By today, anybody that's got an interest in this subject has heard about the alleged Dulce Base underground alien facility, okay, which was one of the things that came out of this. He was being disinformed deliberately. A UFO researcher by the name of William Bill Moore, who at the time, back in the 80s, was one of the premier UFO researchers, wrote the first book on Roswell in 1980, okay, very well-known guy, made it to every MUFON symposium. I mean, this was the go-to guy. I knew Moore very well. Moore was co-opted by military intelligence. He himself fed Paul Benowitz disinformation, and it was all orchestrated by a guy at the time, listen closely, a guy by the name of Richard Doty, who is still out there, okay? Doty was an AFOSI agent. Then something happened. Doty was kicked out of OSI, and he finished his Air Force 20 years in food services. Okay? But you'll see Doty out there occasionally, even today. If you saw the documentary movie about what the hell was the name of that, Mark? You sent me a copy of that. Hell, they wrote a book about it. It came out of England. The something men, the Mirage Men.
Yes.
Okay, Mirage Men. Doty is figured into that documentary. Look, if that guy offered me a used car, a good deal, a good sale on a used car, I'd run, okay? Not walk, I'd run from it. And this son of a bitch is still out there, still occasionally making noise. And but this has been a 70-plus year operation. Now, In 2017, when Harry Reid, okay, the former corrupt Democratic senator from the state of Nevada, came forward admitting in a press briefing that he acquired over $20 million to investigate the ATIP, or to help create the ATIP program in the DOD at the Pentagon, okay, because they were concerned about unidentified aerial phenomena. This was literally the first time that a government official of that stature basically ever came out and publicly acknowledged an interest in UFOs without the smirks and so forth. Now, that opened the floodgates for the next few years. And we got programs like Unidentified, and people like then Lou Elizondo, a name that everybody should recognize, Christopher Mellon, Hal Puthoff, a former CIA scientist, and some believe he's still active, and others. Now look, this is either the biggest dog and pony show since, since ever, or somebody is truly concerned about what may be coming down the road. I don't know. Either way. But suddenly UFOs became respectable once again. Now, over the years, I got to tell you, I have it. When I was at UFO Magazine, I butted heads with everybody imaginable that could have been connected to this. I butted heads with NASA. I butted heads with the DOD. We did a couple of issues on the Reagan initiative, all right, Star Wars, and all of that scientific, technological, amazing shit, okay, that was a result of Ronald Reagan, who incidentally, in the process, collapsed the Russian economy because they couldn't keep up with us. But these weapons systems that were created, one of them, I am convinced, which went by the name Brilliant Pebbles, was the weapons system, I believe, that was fired at those UFOs in orbit during the STS-48 mission. Now, somebody knows something. They've been hiding it from us forever. But now there are cracks in the seams, okay? The question is going to be, is it going to collapse like that dam did in the Ukraine the other day? Or, all right, is this more smoke and mirrors? Only time is going to tell us. But there are people out there right now that think, okay, well, just like your moon denier, Gerry, there are people out there now that think that this is all an additional smoke screen. I don't know, but it is certainly interesting to watch. Now, this guy that just came out, this Gausch or Goosh, okay, is his life in danger? Yeah, I think it really is. I am familiar over the years with other so-called whistleblowers that ended up with a heart attack, a brain aneurysm, a mysterious death on the highway. I mean, yeah, believe it or not, this James Bond shit actually does happen sometimes. So it's going to be interesting. But right now, that guy has such a high profile that if anything happened to him, well, it would be interesting. And believe it or not, as dysfunctional and as fucked up as Bailey, get out of there. As dysfunctional as Congress is, there are people within Congress that are genuinely concerned about this. So, unfortunately, well, everybody knows how dysfunctional and screwed up Congress is anyway. So it's hard to say. And, forget the administration. I see literally zero possibility of anything positive coming from this current group of clowns in the White House. I just don't see it.
Well, I do want to point out something that got left out of what you were talking about. And it was like, as it became more of something known to the public and where there was some confirmation of things. And for me, that first real confirmation was from J. Allen Hynek. When he turned and left, Project Blue Book, when they shut it down to make it no more public, they still do it. The Air Force is still running the project. It's just under a new name. And Hynek went on to do his thing. Hynek became one of the biggest supporters and believers in alien technology in the air. And so for me, that he's one of the first that really convinced me how real it was.
Look,
I want to point out what this whole thing is.
Let me tell you about Hynek.
Oh.
Hynek knew long before the 1966 Hillsdale College situation, which was where he was publicly humiliated throughout the entire United States by the Air Force. Okay. He was making a nice little stipend from the Air Force since the early 50s by being their quote unquote civilian
he was a student.
Astronomical, consultant.
Under orders.
He knew. He basically, he was sold out, and it was only, in my opinion, the public humiliation that turned him around.
Sometimes that's what it takes.
After that happened, he was close asshole buddies with Jacques Vallée. Okay, they were tight. And I never really talked about it publicly, but there were people allegedly in the know that claimed that even in the 80s, before Hynek died, and I believe it was 1986, they were still padding the Air Force intelligence books, both him and Vallée. Now, is that true? I don't know. Would I be surprised if it were true? Absolutely not. No, I would not be surprised.
Look, sometimes that's what it takes. I have zero doubt in him. I do know that when you're under orders, he was under orders from the Air Force. Mum's the word. But then they fucking did what they did. And it pissed him off. And he took the gloves off. Said, okay, that's what we're going to do. We have a Darius Munchausen super sticker, which I'm certain is a pair with a cup of coffee. Super sticker.
That is correct.
Buddy. Thank you, sir, for your $4 super sticker. For you, I'm going to play this next video. This is now. Before I play the video, damn it, I got to say this. I keep trying to get to this, and we've been at it for 43 minutes, and I haven't been able to say it yet. I've got to say it now. What's going on with this guy is he filed a complaint to Congress. That's what this whole thing's about. And I'll go ahead. It's like the debrief is who published this first. Okay. They reported on Monday that Grusch said that he had filed a whistleblower complaint to Congress and the Intelligence Community Inspector General, ICIG, that classified information that he insists proves the recoveries of partial fragments through and up to intact vehicles have been made for decades through the present day by the U.S. government, its allies, and its defense contractors. So that's really what this is about, is he filed a whistleblower complaint. It's really what's going on here. And in the process of doing this and going public with it, he makes it harder for them to deny it. And but he doesn't have anything to show us, just what he's been told. And what he's been told is enough for him to file that complaint. So here's part of that interview. It's 18 seconds.
If you're right, if you're telling us the truth, everyone, the entire American public, has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
And of course, the irony be is if this is bullshit, then it's part of that disinformation.
Look, back in the very late 80s, the very, very early 90s, there was a young woman by the name of Simone Mendez. Okay. Now, I knew Simone pretty well back in the 90s. She's since basically disappeared. But at the time, she was an Air Force member. She worked in Air Force communications. And something happened that she was involved in. And I'm just going to give you the story as I remember it. They were in a communications bunker somewhere, national defense, scanning the skies for ICBMs, all that kind of stuff. And through their radio telescopes, how do I say this? A fleet of unidentified objects was observed entering the solar system. Okay? And all this data was being received. It was being laid out. She was a young woman at the time, just in her, I guess, early 20s. She saw this. It freaking blew her freaking mind. All right? So, she felt she had to leave or let some people that she knew aware of this fact and subsequently get it out to the public. She stole a carbon copy sheet of some of this data. Well, anybody that knows anything about military intelligence, it may seem innocuous. Who's going to miss a carbon copy of something? Well, they did. They count all that stuff. It all must be accounted for. And subsequently, the next thing she knew, she had a team of FBI agents on her ass. And basically, after it was all said and done, she got hustled out of the Air Force. Now, are people aware of stuff that's happening? All the time. All the time. And this, we ran a big story about that in UFO magazine. MUFON even brought her on. She talked about it in some MUFON symposiums. And it was, at the time, a very famous case. But here's the thing, okay? Everybody has a memory span about the width of a gnat's ass, okay? These big stories come, they go. Probably 50 or 60% of the people listening right now to this broadcast have never heard of any of this, okay? And if they did, perhaps just in passing, and then the next thing it's out of their mind. The military intelligence people depend upon that. Time is their ally, okay? This stuff happens. Momentarily, it makes a big splash, and then bingo, it's gone, okay? There is nothing about this where it's all collected in one spot where everybody can dip into the knowledge well. That's not how this crap works. So, look, the proof is there for anybody that wants to sit down and work at uncovering it. But Gerry, today, people don't do that. They want the quick, easy way. Hey, when did this happen?
It's the 24-hour news cycle, Don. It's the 24-hour news cycle.
I'll go on the internet and I'll look it up. Yeah.
So here's some information that you guys may or may not be aware of.
Let's hear it, Mark.
In April, Grusch, I think it is, he retires, decides to go public. In May, he scrubs the internet. You can't find virtually anything on him, be it, if he had it at all, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all that. All that stuff is scrubbed. He gets a lawyer. He lawyers up. And I'm not saying this is good, bad, or indifferent, but he lawyers up with a guy who was, I forget what his position was, excuse me, in the government, but it was like the government's lawyer, let's say. He gets him, and some people start to look into his background as best as they can. This is what they find on government websites, that he was part of Space Force. That's interesting, right? He was part of Space Force. It slipped my mind now, but it is I understand why you would want to scrub your stuff if you think you're going to have some issues. Yeah, right, because you don't want people to find you, to come to your house and knock on your door like a lunatic and say, "Where are the green men?" I get that. I understand that. It's just, and this whole thing is so interesting that it's happening now, right before a new campaign is kicked off, right? It's very interesting that this is happening now. And it's also very interesting. It's getting so much coverage on most of the information that we already know. And who comes out yesterday on Redacted? That's a YouTube channel. It's a news thing. But Corbell comes out. And if you watch the interview, it's about 20 minutes long. Towards the end, the host says something to the effect of, "Thanks for bringing this guy out into the open." And he says he makes sure to get this in right before it cuts off. There was lots of people out there who have been getting these people out, yada, yada, yada. Maybe he meant that it wasn't him who brought this guy out. Nobody knows yet if it was Lou, if it was this guy, but I don't know. Doesn't it seem all this is just, I don't know, man. It seems made up to some extent. Not what this guy's saying, but this whole deal about the bass player from the punk band and Millen and all these guys come forward and say, "Give us tens of millions of dollars and we'll build a spaceship with new technology." Crickets. What do they do with that money? Where's the project? Where's the updates? Where's the website? Right? It's very interesting how all this stuff.
You're talking about Tom DeLonge, right?
Yeah. Just interesting how all this stuff is unfolding. I don't know what to think of this new guy. I no clue. But if we expect photos and things, that ain't gonna happen.
He made that clear. I think even in this part here, Mark, I got one more little clip, and this, I think this goes along with what you're talking about. I think this is a clip.
So I've got to be blunt about this. Yeah. You're not making this up. This is not a lie.
No, absolutely not.
Because everybody watching this right now is looking at your face. Mm-hmm. They're going, "Is this guy for real?"
I am for real. And I'm sitting here at great personal risk and obvious professional risk by talking to you today.
Well, that wasn't the clip. I was hoping I'd had the one. But he talks about it. He says, "No, I don't have any photos. I'm not going to be giving you anything. I'm just telling you." And it all goes back to the fact that none of this happened until he filed with Congress and the intelligence.
Okay, let me give a little personal insight from my own personal experience. When I was in the Army, I went into the Army in 1969. Originally, when I enlisted, what I wanted was to go to helicopter flight school. I wanted to fly choppers, okay? I got the basic training, and halfway through basic training at Fort Dix, I was called out one day. And there might have been one or two other guys, but I was conducted to an office. There was a captain sitting in there, and he was a captain in the United States Army Security Agency, ASA. Now, I had never heard of ASA at the time, but ASA was an intelligence organization within the United States Army that did not fall under DA, Department of the Army. They fed directly into NSA, the National Security Agency. Now, up until that time, most people were not even aware that there was something called the NSA. Okay? It was one of the most covert intelligence agencies around. Now, subsequently, there have been many books written about it, The Puzzle Palace and other books that described in detail what NSA is, was, and what it does. They are the people that have their thumb on everything electronic. Every time you make a call or take a call on your cell phone, believe it or not, it's being monitored, mostly by computers, unless you happen to be a person of interest. How do you become a person of interest?
Oh, commercial break. I'm sorry, Don, we got to come back.
Okay.
Chanel needs to take us to a commercial break. Remember where you're at, guys. We'll be right back after this message. Hi, guys. This is Gerry from Pop Culture Minefield here on KGRA, and we're leaving for our first break. I hope we survive.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm going to take it for the energy. I'm going to take it for the play. I'm going to take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a Feel the Difference money-back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Oh, wow, we survived. Welcome back to the commercial break. Now for some more Pop Culture Minefield on KGRA. We are back, and Don, you were saying, I apologize, we had to go to break.
Oh, hey, no problem. So anyway, your landline, okay? Not even your cell phone, your landline, it's monitored. Your computers, it's monitored. All right? You say the wrong thing. There are code words that click that immediately garner their interest. Things like, well, remember what happened after the Patriot Act. Suspected terrorists talking about, well, next week is the birthday party. I've got the birthday cake all ready to go. That kind of shit, okay?
Right.
They listen to all that. My God, never say something like A-bomb or nuclear. I just triggered them right now, okay?
I got to tell you, back in the day, another artist and I used to call each other at work at our offices, and we would always end our phone calls with Baka Laka Laka Jihad. Assuming we're pissing somebody off in the government listening to us.
Right. Well, that's the kind of stuff that ASA did. Now, they picked me. I didn't want to go. As a matter of fact, I had never heard of it. Like I told the captain, I said, what if you're not interested? Well, I was a brand new recruit. He bullshitted me. And he said, well, you don't have a choice. Well, actually, I did, but I didn't know any better. So then the next thing, the next hurdle you've got to go through is a security clearance. Well, buddy, they ended up putting a microscope up my ass. They sent agents back to my hometown. They went and talked to everybody they could talk to that knew me. My football coach, the police, my parents, my grandparents, friends, relatives, you name it. I ended up with a top security clearance with a crypto access. Now, that was as high as you could go unless you were connected with an SAP, which I wasn't, special access program. But I had as high a security clearance as you could get, which meant ultimately nothing. I didn't get to see anything that I didn't have a need to know, okay, in the course of my duties. Now, in Vietnam, it was a little bit different. And we ran a lot of sketchy shit over there. But what I wanted to say, and this was the point of bringing all this up, ASA had sites, listening stations, facilities worldwide, okay? Wherever the American Army was or the American military, there were sites. The Navy, the Marine Corps, the Air Force all had the same equivalency as ASA. In other words, all the branches of service had that contingent, people that were involved in intelligence. And we got the word that a guy in the UK, an ASA trooper in the UK, something happened. I don't know what it was, but this son of a bitch went on the run. Okay? He went on the run. It was believed he was trying to get to Germany to go through, well, not Checkpoint Charlie, but to get into East Berlin, where the communists, he would take refuge with the communists. And, oh my God, something happened and the guy died. Okay? Now, make of that what you will. But this guy that was on the run ended up dead. Well, you can speculate about what happened, but he was allegedly privy to some very important information they didn't want out. And he never made it. So, yeah, they will play hardball, okay, under the right circumstances. Can I blame them? Hell no, okay? This guy was going to defect to the communists. You pays your money, you take your chances. So, you know, hey, this is serious business. And for this guy, this Gausch or Goosh,
Grusch,
okay, to say that he's at risk, he is. because from what I've uncovered in my research, there is nothing more covert, security sensitive, or anything else than the possibility of ET incursions here on planet Earth. So make of that what you will.
So
but yeah, I wish this guy well.
So what's your view on Lou Alessandro saying that, you know, he was the head of this, that, and the other thing, and a lot of that has been somewhat debunked. But regardless, he was in the service, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Was his life at risk when he came forward?
Okay, in full disclosure, I know Elizondo. When I say I know him, I've had a number of telephone conversations with him. Okay. And I guess the nicest way to say this is he made some statements to me that never bore out. I tried on numerous occasions to get him to come on my radio show, Dark Matters Radio. Now, this is after his face was all over the TV, okay? He had his TV program, Unidentified. He was dealing with people like, for Christ's sakes, Tom DeLonge and Blink, what is it, 182 or 184?
Yeah.
Yes.
182.
Yeah. Christopher Mellon, a former Undersecretary of State for Intelligence. Hal Puthoff from the CIA, okay? And he lied to me. All right? Every time I would call him, we would chat briefly, and then he'd say, "Oh, Don, gotta go. I got something coming up, blah, blah, blah. Look, I'll call you on Saturday." He did it to me 3 times. He never got back to me. He was avoiding me. Okay. Now, why would you avoid me? All right. Hey, I'm just like everybody else. I want to try to get to the bottom of this. But the guy treated me like I was radioactive. So that told me a lot. Look, when I was a criminal investigator, a detective, and I had a CI, okay, and this CI was avoiding me, and he knew, and I know that he knew that he was supposed to get to me right away, and he disappeared. That told me all I needed to know. Something here is stinking in Denmark, buddy. Something is stinking. And I don't know why he avoided me. Maybe he was told to avoid me. But I was under surveillance for years. Okay? When we were doing UFO magazine, especially after I broke those big stories, we had people shadowing us. We had people observing our house. I mean, I know this. Hey, I've been around the block a couple of times. I've been to 2 goat ropings, 1 county fair. I can read a map, okay? And I saw these guys parked down the street in a van observing our house. And I would go out and wave at them, okay? Just to let them know I knew. So, yeah, these guys are not nearly as cool as they think they are. But hey, we're being observed and watched right now. Okay? Don't you for a second think that we're not under observation because we're talking about this sensitive shit. It's happening. And Gerry knows it.
Well, the first thing I've learned about people who put you off like that, they're hiding something. It's a fact. They're hiding something. Well, I will put this out there. I know people in the UFO community that are bullshitters or are hiding something. Sometimes that hiding something is part of their job. I don't know. They're terrified of you because you've got a bullshit detector, plus you don't hide it. You're not a person who like, you don't do the, oh really? You don't do that. You just you pretty much put it out there, and I think that terrifies some people. It doesn't scare me because I like hanging out with you. I like people like you. I like being around people like you that got that built-in bullshit detector and let everybody around them know. So you're constantly frank, honest, and upfront about everything. Whereas some of these guys, like Lou Elizondo, I'm because I watched Unidentified. I don't think anything was really gleaned from that show, and it's sort of the same thing that you and I've talked about before. It seems like sometimes they just want to stir the mud around and just keep stirring it, bringing up same facts over and over again and never proving anything. Right? Never digging any deeper, never asking the real serious, horrifying questions. Are there people within our government? Who do you think they are? That's where they won't go. They go, yeah, there are people within our government but they'll never go, well, who do you think that is? You know that if they're genuine, legitimate people that are out actually looking for something, they'll start saying names, but they don't want to do that. Is it because they're terrified or they're part of the process of the cover-up? And we have those that I believe do it. We've talked about this before, that there are those out there that are just continuing the thing. Is this possibly even, because I brought this up to you the other day, Don, is this just more wag the dog? We got an inept president right now stumbling all over the fucking place, and UFO news keeps popping up.
Well, look, I'd like to go back, okay? What I was getting at was this new guy, he may be at risk. Granted, we have this old guy, Lou, who's been around, TV shows and all. They both have, let's say, similar backgrounds. At least they have been confirmed as being in the service, etc. Is this new guy at more risk than Lou was at risk? Because Lou's the one who supposedly released all those videos, etc., right?
Right.
So if we have Lou, who's out there at all the conventions, he's on TV shows. He
did it. He released those videos, Mark, in conjunction with Mellon. Okay,
right.
Mellon. Now, okay. Chris Mellon had a very high-profile job. He was highly placed. Okay, he was up in the stratosphere.
Right,
Undersecretary of State for Intelligence. That's pretty
big.
rarefied.
That's big. So so let's switch it off of Lou and go to Mellon. Is this new guy at more risk of being offed or whatever, or his life being ruined than Mellon?
I'll say no, because that was not the Air Force or the CIA. That was Navy. And Navy is pretty much out front wanting to shit all over the Air Force over this stuff. I don't think it's as big a problem for the Air Force as what this guy did, because his complaint that he supposedly filed, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the complaint.
There's nobody who has. In fact, John Greenwald put out a show last night, an hour-long show, and they tried to get it, and he said, it's not showing up. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist, of course. But he said, we've been trying to get that complaint. You should be able to get that complaint. It's not showing up.
It should be your legal right to be able to see that complaint.
Right.
And has it been filed yet? We don't know if it's been filed yet. All we know is he filed it. Have they filed it? So it may be in the process, but they're going to have to put up or shut up about this, or this is going to die, and his story will look like a hoax if something doesn't come forward. But the point is he is supposedly directed at the Air Force and the CIA. And if that's true, that's more dangerous territory to be messing with than the Department of the Navy, because the Navy doesn't give a shit. They don't care. Clearly, they're right out front. Yeah, those are ours. They were the first ones. Yeah, those were our videos. Yeah, no problem. You'll never get that from the Air Force or the CIA.
Well, right. I'm a neophyte at all of this stuff about the government and what and the whistleblowers and things, but it seems to me the compartmentalization of the government and secret information and things are handled similarly, I suppose, in these different departments and things, right? So if you're going to come out and say this stuff, you're going to be held, let's say, accountable by these departments. Some way, some shape, somehow, made to look crazy, as Don said about that Binowitz guy. Again, I'm not saying that this stuff did not happen. So there is a rumor right now, it's and I can't confirm this, that this Grusch guy has been handled by Lou for about 6 years now, supposedly. That's a rumor by a guy named, and you guys can look up the name if you want. I haven't had a chance. I've been a little under the weather. Brian Bender. Now, I don't know if this guy's a complete moron. I don't know the name. Bryan Bender. And he says that this new guy's been groomed by Lou. I don't know if that's true, but I wanted to throw it out there to let your sleuths look into that stuff. Yeah, this is a very interesting story. I know that Don doesn't really care. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he seems to be less concerned that this story was put out there by a couple of morons who have already put out these style stories that were proven completely false. Or problematic, like Keene and her story about Roswell and the Nazis and all that. I don't know. That's part of the story, right? Is it a big part of the story? I don't know, but it is part of the story that these people are the ones who are handling, at least initially, this story. And they're proven to have put out some just horse shit out there.
That's interesting. So what's this guy's name? What is it? Bender?
Well,
yes, Brian Bender.
Don't forget, when something comes out that at least in part is true, or possibly all true, what's the first thing that the people, the powers that be, will want to do if it runs contrary to what they're doing? To smear it, muddy it, destroy it, destroy the people. Now, a lot of people have come forward, and I just read an article the day before yesterday about this Grusch guy. Okay. A number of highly placed people have come forward and said, yes, this man is legitimate. He's real. He did what he said he did, etc. So, was I there? No. Were you there? No. Okay, not that I'm aware of. So, you can only go by what is published. Now, these people coming out now claiming that Elizondo groomed him. Well, before I accept that or buy into it, I want to see some damn documentation about it.
Yeah, but Don, what you're saying, I don't disagree with, but you're saying that he did what he did in the service, right? Be it the medals and the I guess he saw action and things. Granted, what does that have to do with what he's releasing as second?
Look, he filed.
It only shows veracity. That's all.
He filed a complaint with Congress. Now, this whistleblower stuff, especially in light of recent legislation that reaffirms the whistleblower status, this is not small potatoes. What the man is claiming before Congress is that, for whatever reason, he went to Congress because he released information that he felt had to be publicly known or whatever. I don't know.
Mhm.
And somebody retaliated against him professionally, personally. God only knows what. We don't know because we can't see the complaint. But there's got to be something to that, Mark, because you don't go to Congress and bring down all that, my God, public scrutiny on yourself if there's not truth there.
That's right.
You'd be crushed and destroyed.
Right. Let's remember he's fully retired, full benefits, the whole thing. So whatever has come down on him, which we don't know about, at least initially here, other than him scrubbing the internet from his personal life in Colorado, we don't know anything else about him. So I don't know what might have been threatened against him or whatever to make him come forward, but at least initially there seems to be no outcome there that would you know piss somebody off. Most whistleblowers, quote unquote, most of the whistleblowers who come out are indignant. They're pissed off. That's why they're whistleblowers. These new guys from the FBI, that one guy who said that he was told to move from one side of the country to the other, and then they set up the trucks to move his stuff, and then they wouldn't release his stuff, and he was homeless for a while because he pissed them off so much. That's the type of behavior that makes a whistleblower. And one would look at this guy and say, well, we don't know what's going on in his background. We don't know what's going on with his finances and things like that. But at least on the surface, there seems to be no indignation by this guy about some sort of hassles in his life at this point. Again, that's just we just observe what he's saying, how he's presenting himself, right? There doesn't seem to be any righteous indignation of this guy initially here. Doesn't mean it isn't there or wasn't there, but we certainly don't see that on the surface of a pissed off person against the government because he's been screwed over. So I just base that on other whistleblowers' general behavior when they're in front of these folks speaking.
Well, doesn't that kind of attitude work against them as a whistleblower? Because, okay, well, they've done something to piss you off. So what, are you just, is this something you're making up just to try and get back at them?
I'm just saying generally a whistleblower comes forward because they were irritated enough to come forward, generally, or they wouldn't be a whistleblower. I suppose a percentage of them are just ethical, good people who see something horrible and they want to come forward. Sure. Yeah. I mean, you saw what happened to the two journalists from the Twitter leaks. And those pricks in Congress, how much money have you made? And blah, 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 blah. And it's like, what are you talking about? There was no money really made on the Twitter leaks. We were given this information to release to the public. But you saw how they acted about that, right?
Yeah.
And these two reporters were pretty indignant about it.
Well, in full disclosure, those were the Democrats. It had to do with Twitter.
I know.
It had to do shutting up the conservative voices.
Yes.
These guys made that public, and the Democrats went batshit crazy on them.
Right.
It was politically motivated.
Right. But the response by the reporters, there was a lot of indignation there about that, right? I mean, it was there. So we'll see how this guy responds over time, but he seems fairly relaxed about all this. But then again, why wouldn't you be relaxed when you are confirming nothing we don't already know? No names, no nothing, right? So why wouldn't you feel somewhat comfortable talking about the stuff, getting your full retirement as best as we can tell he did after he retired? So I think we have to wait and see how this all plays out. Because time should add some pressure, right? Because if nothing happens, then folks are going to start going after this guy, saying, "Hey, guy, you made all these claims. What's up? What have you done for me lately?"
Yeah. It's like, well, we'd said it a little bit ago, too, that it'll all come out, whether this is bullshit or legitimate. Because all we know right now is that he claims to have filed a direct whistleblower complaint to Congress and to the intelligence community management. That's it. That's all we know.
Right. We have no idea what's in the complaint. We have
no idea what's in it.
If there's stuff in that complaint that they won't release because it's classified, right? We have no idea. Evidently, and Don would be a better person to follow up on this, but supposedly everything he said publicly has been, let's say, cleared by the the departments, the government, for him to say all of it. Supposedly, he's not up there just spouting stuff like Greer or Hoagland or something. He's up there as kind of a spokesman for the government in that funny kind of way, because the government supposedly has said, we have no problem with what you're going to say here. Go ahead. Supposedly.
And if he did lawyer up, which I would certainly do it. If I was going to do what he's going to do,
it's been proven,
I would absolutely lawyer up, because that's who's telling him what he can and cannot say.
At least initially, yes.
They're telling him, when you go on and do an interview, this is what you can talk about, and this is what you are not allowed to say anything about. And already in that one interview with News Nation, he was already kind of skipping around.
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, he's been coached and told not to talk about certain things. And of course, when you're dealing with the intelligence community and the military, you've got to be very careful, because there's a fine line between talking about something loosely and talking about something and being a traitor.
Yes.
Jack of all, what is it? First, you get the money. When you get the money, you get the power. When you get the power, you get the woman. Tony Montana. Oh yeah, that's what is that movie called?
Scarface.
Scarface, yeah. So, but anyway, look, I don't know what's going to come of this situation. I don't think any of us can. We've got some guesstimates of what's going to happen here. It's like, one, we're going to find out about this complaint, that it is legitimate, and then we'll go from there. Two, it's bullshit, and it's just more wag the dog shit going on, because a clumsy doofus of a president tripped over a sandbag, and God only knows what's going to be next. We've been seeing this wag the dog shit for a long freaking time. That as soon as something happens, things look bad, they go, oh, look over there. Look at that. Don't pay attention to this. Look at that. So it could be that too. I don't put anything past our government anymore. Anybody who trusts this government is an idiot. I love this country. I love this country. I love our flag. I love the men and women that serve our nation in defense of it. But I don't like politicians, and I don't like government officials. They're not worth, I'm not going to say what my dad would say, because that would get me in trouble. Not worth the gunpowder is.
Well, then let Don say it.
I don't think we should say it at all. It's a good way to get in serious trouble. But that's how I feel. It's like, not worth the tissue to blow their nose. There we go. There's a friendly PG version of saying it. Just find Walt Disney's body. I'm sure he's generating enough energy from rolling in his grave. I wouldn't be surprised at that. We can talk about that on Friday, but there's some big stuff happening in the entertainment front right now that if changes don't happen, we're going to see studios die right now. They're dying right now because they're trying to do business a way that's counterintuitive to making money. Well,
And
you
to
can't
that,
run a business like that.
and to their demise, I can only say, "Oh, the pain, the pain."
The pain, the pain. Thank you,
Well,
Dr. Smith.
you might have seen from 2017, long time ago, that guy from BlackRock who said we have to force change of behavior with companies, and by that he meant the LGBT thing, the gender thing, all of this, and that's what's going on here. If you want a better rate on your loan, you will do these things, just like the Academy Awards did. Right? You will have a certain amount of this, and this in your movie, or you will not be up for.
That's the problem. They are so afraid of losing their score that they are bending the knee to this organization, and this organization has power that needs to be taken away from them. They're a lobbyist organization. How can a lobbyist organization have that kind of authority to impact companies like that?
And it's beginning to happen because Mark Wahlberg's going to start his thing in Vegas. You have Epicverse. He started his thing. You've got these guys who are now going out there trying to set up their own mini studios and things. You've got the guy from the Dukes of Hazzard. He does his own thing.
Schneider. Yeah.
I buy his stuff, and his movies are okay. You know, they're not polished as we're used to seeing, obviously, but they're still worth supporting, right? So we're seeing this stuff slowly but surely happen. That
ask the shareholders of Anheuser-Busch what their feelings are.
27 billion. 27 billion.
Companies are, and now I can't believe I'm gonna break the rule here, but are about to fuck around and find out.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, and there are. Just as a side note, there, California. I lived here my whole life, right? Just found out this morning that in Orange County, their city council voted to ban the pride flag from all of their city buildings in California. And this is unheard of, that this backlash is like, you hear it more and more now. Why do the vets get one day and this gets a month, right? What is going on here? This is insanity. And then they show all the crazy stuff in the schools and all that. It seems as though they effed around and they're finding out. And it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. It seems like this.
Yeah, California thinks it's too big to fail. And there's going to come a point where Northern California they've been trying and talking about it for years, breaking from the state.
Yeah, it's very hard because of the water and all that, right? It's very, very hard.
Well, I lived in Sacramento, and I used to get pissed off that Southern California was consuming so much of our water up in the north that we were getting told that we can't, water our gardens and our lawns.
Right.
We couldn't take showers for more than this many minutes. It's like, we got plenty of water. Southern California is the problem. It's always been the problem, and they've got to do something about it. I mean, the state capital isn't near Los Angeles. It's up north. The problem is,
as people, we should not vote in trillion-dollar trains to nowhere. We should vote in ways to capture the water, ways to get water from the ocean. There's all sorts of ways to fix this issue.
Desalination.
It's just we're morons, and only 20% of us vote in local elections because we're morons.
I loved it when what's his name, the mouthpiece for leftist science.
Tyson.
Yeah, Tyson went on Joe Rogan to talk about desalination and talking about that's expensive. Desalination is expensive. I'm like going, you're talking dollars to life, dollars to human life is what you're talking about. And he doesn't understand how big of an asshole he sounds when he does that shit.
The same guy would say what AOC said, right? You're going to talk about how much money it's going to cost to cool down the planet? It's about money with you?
Yeah, it turns right around.
We refer to AOC as not AOC. That's Marxist Barbie.
Yes.
Marxist Barbie.
Well, I will say she
no.
is easy on the eyes. So
No, she's not that. No. Nope.
Well, hey.
No, she's not.
Well, I got to tell you, PBR, Past Blue Ribbon is a die-hard American beer company. And what I'm going to tell you, Kingsport, out of your statement is you don't have to worry. There'll be plenty of PBR for you. You won't run out.
I didn't realize Cal was a hipster.
Hey, Cal. I'm a PBR fan, buddy.
Oh, John, is Don a hipster?
Oh, yeah, Don's a huge hipster.
And a Korean War vet.
Stop putting words in my mouth.
So he earned the right to be a hipster.
He earned the right.
So Gerry, I hear, and this breaks my heart. I got to tell you, it breaks my heart. I hear you're a fan of the Ranch in New Mexico show, and I hear you like that show there, Gerry. I hear you like that Dino Beaver show. That's what I've been told on the QT.
Fuck you, Mark. I do still like the show. But I've been one of the ones out front criticizing some of the things. It's like, look, either you're going to ask questions and go about doing it. When I hear that you take a break from this place in between seasons, I've got a fucking problem with that. That does not add an air of legitimacy to it. What I believe, and I've said it on the show, that I believe what's in that mountain is man-made. I believe Bigelow put it in there. I don't think Bigelow would have fucking sold the property if there was alien shit in that mesa. I don't believe it for a second. I've also called bullshit on shapeshifters. It's just fucking jerk off.
Well, dude, it's worse than that. It's not about, we're going to take a break so that lump in my head can get smaller. Whatever, right? The problem is this. They don't even go back to their old episodes. We've seen that. We've seen them in one of the episodes say, oh, the drone won't fly. Oh, look, it won't turn on. And then in the next season, they bring a drone out and it flies. That's the kind of horseshit that I don't like. It's like, it's your own show, you idiots. And you're not even referring back and finishing up anything. You're just moving forward.
Well, they do refer back. They do actually do.
Well,
that.
They didn't refer back to that.
Well, they did recently, because I saw where they brought that up. But once again, the show suffers to editing where some things get left out, and I'm sure. But the thing is what is your fucking budget? You can only have 2 rockets this episode? What is your fucking budget? Travis, who's with the UAP task force, should absolutely be the forefront of talking about this stuff. Why this stuff isn't being talked about more in the community than it is just on the show, I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, because it's entertainment.
I've been trying to get the guy that he's been in our chat before. We talk about Skinwalker Ranch. To get him on the show, because he's a skeptic that's on the show. Do you remember his name? Sean? Is that it? Ryan?
I'm on it.
I forget his name, but he's a really sharp dude. I want to get him on here. I want to talk to him because I am curious. Because there has to be a reason why Travis Taylor would not get back with Don Eckert.
Because it's entertainment. Don Eckert's not entertainment. He's facts. He used a tire on the road. You got an issue that when they had the exploding rocket and all that crap, and Mick West, I think Mick West does great work. He's proven to do great work. He comes out and he says, here's what this looks like it is. People try to put that information out to these guys, and they're blocked and banned from social media because they refuse to respond to it. What kind of horse shit is that? Come on. Yeah. He's a debunker. Okay, he's a debunker. What about the information? Here's what he says this is, and here's a couple of examples he gives of the exact same weirdness in the camera that this looks like it is. Crickets.
Yeah. So I saw that video, and it's point on.
Ryan Skinner? What's
That's
Ryan
him.
Skinner?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if his last name's Skinner, but he does the Skinwalker Ranch YouTube channel.
Ryan Skinner.
And he showed some of that same footage you're talking about. And he really thinks, because I don't agree with him, one of the great ways of testing something where they get results, because the only thing I'm still interested in is the activity that's happening in the sky around them when they're doing these things. I find that interesting. And there's, been given guarantees that there are no visual effects used in the show. So what is the aerial phenomena going on around them? That's the only thing that interests me. And it still does. Past that, I don't know. The radiation thing freaks me out a little bit. I don't think I'd want to go there because of that. Because it's not the first time I've heard of the radiation.
Right, but why would the state of New Mexico, given their history, Don Ecker, of a certain movie that was made, and most of those people died from radiation making that movie with John Wayne, why would they allow this
That's
place?
when he played Genghis Khan. Yeah.
Right. Why would they allow this place to stay open and be a mini Disneyland anyway? Why? Right? Why?
Oh, I don't think that'll ever happen. I think it's too dangerous.
No, well, why now though? Why are they allowing these people in? Why do they kind of poo-poo the guy who had the swollen head? He's still there. He's got a wife and kids. What the hell are you doing?
All of them with swollen heads.
Well, for one reason or the other.
Well, that's the reason I originally wanted to get a hold of Travis Taylor. And
it's my point is his avoidance of you says one of two things, that either they're lying or he's been ordered not to talk about some things.
Yeah.
It's one or the other.
Well,
but I still call bullshit on the Mesa.
Brandenburg was the guy that told me about the radiation story. I asked Brandenburg to contact Taylor. They were associates, colleagues, friends, I guess. And Taylor said, yeah, sure, have him call me or have him get in touch, which I did several times. Never heard a word back from him. So I figured, hey, tough shit.
And of course, we've all watched that guy from the Washington Post. He did those 5 shows on either the Skinwalker or tangentially on the A-tip and all that. Great work there, right? Have you heard anything? In fact, I don't watch the show from soup to nuts, Gerry, but my issue, did they ever have that reporter appear on the show at all? The guy from the Washington Post, I sent you those clips. Did they ever have him show up?
Aware of.
Right. I wonder why. That guy put a lot of time and effort, slept on the property by himself, looked around, and yet it doesn't even make a mention on the show. Gee, Don, I wonder why. Of course we know why, because the guy called horse shit on your Dino Beaver and the rest of the crap. and yet he's one of the only guys who was allowed to go out there and sleep in a tent by himself on the property. No mention. No, like it never. And your head guy, Travis, refused to be in the same room with him, would not talk to him, would not converse with him at all. Gee, I wonder why.
Well, that screams chicken shit, doesn't it?
It screams that he's being controlled by the station or something, because he loves to be on the shows, I suppose. I know they go to conferences and they do selfies and they sell whatever they're going to sell. I get it. We've all been at the conferences. Don's been at the conferences. And I noticed Don Ecker in the 90s when I met him. He'd go to the conferences. He would give his talk, public talk. Then you'd pay like the $20 or whatever to go to the private one. And you know what? Don was like a freaking ghost. As soon as it's over, he's like, let's go, Vicky. Gone. Because he's not going to spend time there because it's a bunch of horse shit.
Yeah, I have no room to talk because Keith will tell you I hate going to conventions. even though I like meeting people, Adam. I just want to get out of there the minute it's over. I'm like, I'm done. I just want to get John's seen it too. John knows how I am. I don't want to be there. It's like rubbing elbows with people annoys me. What I like about going to those conventions, and John knows this too, is seeing my friends that I've known for years. When I get to run into them, that's when I'm happy. But when people are coming by, it's always be selling. I'm always selling, trying to sell our show or selling merch. And
so
then
you're
after
a whore. That's what you are.
I have never claimed to not be a whore. I have said, if you are a professional artist, it is only one step away from doing hand jobs for a quarter.
So since we're kind of done talking about the whistleblower, because more has to come out, granted.
There's nothing left to talk about with it.
Right. Let's talk about the Lonnie Zamora case and why that has to have a movie. The Lonnie Zamora case. The case where a guy sees something, does his due diligence, does one interview on the radio, and then quits being a cop because he doesn't want all the horse shit to come down on the department. And he says, I guess I'm out because this is causing a problem with the department that I've sworn my life to. And he quits, right?
It's another New Mexico situation.
Right. That case is amazing. It's an amazing case. Don also brought up the people who have been affected by radiation and things like that. The Cash Landrum case, where those people saw whatever they saw in Texas, I believe it was, and then they get juiced with something, and a couple of them died, I guess, fairly young, and one tended to last a bit longer, but
they got filled with cancers.
Right. And there was
that radiation.
There were people at the site when it was going on, and just all this stuff went down. I want to see movies about stuff like that. You got to ask yourself a question. Why hasn't there been a decent documentary about the Zamora case? There's been many things, right?
I would like to make my own docudrama about it, because I've been fascinated with that since I was a kid.
It's amazing.
That story took place 25 days before I was born.
Well, it's just an amazing case, and it's more amazing because of the guy and his ethics and morals attached,
and the physical evidence.
Yes.
Because what is that? That's close encounter of second kind, right? With trace evidence.
Yes.
Yeah. And I've always been fascinated by that story, and no, there's never been and there should be a docudrama, and I'm sure, shooting in New Mexico, there are so many tax credits in New Mexico. You could shoot a docudrama down there and release it. And I would shoot location. I would shoot in New Mexico.
Yeah, I would think that, I talked to Don about it, and I said the guy who did the Roswell film would be a good one. Even the guy who did the tree cutters from Snowflake, I like that movie okay. But it's the part where they faked it up when he's inside the ship and all that. Leave that crap out, and just I know you want to get the people involved and you want to sell your movie. I get it, but the Zamora case deserves the respect, because what's happened with that case since it happened? Nothing. Why hasn't anything happened with that case? Same thing with the Chicago O'Hare, right? These cases are ripe for some kind of docudramas or something to get the information out there to prove that there are inexplicable things that have happened.
Who's the writer? Who's going to write it? Who do you think should write it?
Oh, I have no idea, dude. I'm more of a consumer of films than that. But it's just that Zamora just seemed like a regular guy. Right? That an irregular thing happened to.
Just your average beat cop, man.
Yeah. And he walked from his career because of it. How many people would do that? When you look at Stryber and the tree cutters from Snowflake and all these guys, they keep going back and back to the well, writing books, going to conventions. Zamora never did that. Cash Landrum, I don't think they did it. They may have gone to a convention or two to maybe get some information, but I don't recall that they ponied up and then had T-shirts made and whistles and stuff to sell it, right? They just didn't do this.
Hey, by the way, you brought up, without saying his name, Tracy Torme, because of his involvement with Fire in the Sky.
Right.
We just got rumors that he's got a new show on radio.
It's not rumors. Came from
me. I
me.
didn't want to give up that I'm mentioning something that you got in private email. Jesus Christ, Don.
I talked to him on the fucking phone.
All right, fine. Fuck
it's
it.
a whistleblower.
Blab about it. Go ahead, blab about it, Don. But Tracy's
he called me up the other night. He called me up the other night, and he said, "Hey, Don," he said, I've got a new podcast show that I'm doing." "Oh, great. How long you been doing? A few months?" "Oh, yeah." He said, "With all the stuff happening in the UFO field and that intelligence guy coming out, I'd like to have you come on my show." And I said, "Sure. When?" "Well, it's on Wednesday mornings. It'd be 7:30 your time, 7:30 to 8:30. And I said, "Tracy, that's when I do my show." "Oh," but I said, "Look, hey, I'd be happy to do a pre-recorded interview." "Okay, I'll have my producer call you." So 5 minutes later, his producer calls me. And apparently Tracy didn't give a cognitive type, deal. Well, he'll do a pre-record. So I had to explain it to her. I said, "No, I'd be happy to do a pre-record." "Well, I'll talk to Tracy and get back to you." And that was the last I heard. So, okay.
And then Don said, "And you want to be my latex salesman?"
Well, I of course, I got to make this joke. Tracy Torme's podcast would be.
You muted, buddy.
Muted.
That's the joke.
That's the joke.
Oh.
Because his audio always sucks. I'm like, how can somebody that writes such great science fiction be so out of touch with technology? But I say the same shit about our good friend John Brandenburg. It's like he's confused by the internet.
Hey, Gerry, did you check out the Illinois UFO stuff that I sent out to you about the amazing job they did? I sent it out to you along.
Those are the videos that I downloaded. I haven't had a chance to watch them yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I apologize as much as I can, but there's no point in apologizing. I have very limited time. Bill wants stuff from me for our channel. I don't have time for. I'm like, I need people that can help me do some of these things because.
Do you use your left hand or your right hand? I'd like to know.
Well, I got to tell you, sometimes I like switching up and using my left hand, but since the neuropathy started, I can't feel much of my right hand, so it's like I'm fucking somebody else's hand.
So it's normal. Yeah. Anyway, at some point, again,
fucking try to joke with me on that shit. I'll fucking play with you, dude.
Anyway, at some point,
we have.
Oh, we got a minute. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh.
Can you wrap it up in 30 seconds?
Well, at some point, we should probably maybe even share those things on YouTube with the rest of your people again. And most people will agree with me. I know Don will. This is one of the better examples of TV research ever done on a case. And it just doesn't happen anymore. Doesn't happen to Zamora. Doesn't happen to Cash Landrum. Doesn't happen to Chicago O'Hare to this extent. Great research. Excellent.
Yeah.
And I'll get back to you next week on whether I agree or not.
Yes.
And it's true, Jack, of all casuals. Monkey, all I got to say is I'm definitely an expert compared to you. I just know stuff. But anyway, guys, that's it for the show for today. We will be back. Don and I will be back this afternoon. You're welcome to join us again this afternoon if you want to, Mark. We're going to be talking about D-Day. Past that, I want to thank everybody that was here. I want to thank our KGRA audience. I want to thank Anima Confusa, D-Bud, Martin Penny, Dragon Ruse, Read by Nature, the 70s Rock Fan, Monkey Jeebus, Andy Morrow, the Jack of All Casuals, Alex Moore, Joe's Atmosphere, FKH 2005, Boosh McFadden, Darius Munchausen, John Ostings, Hexalon Comics, Lady V Elements, Shane Moore, my good buddy, Kingsport Cal, and of course, Glenn Fleming. And that is it, guys. Have a great day. See ya.
Later.